electricity is in somebody else's name and they're in a coma, the electric company's not going to talk to you.
No, I know. I learned that. Yeah. All right, guys. Welcome back to Widowhood. Again, 0 stars. Completely sucks. I would not recommend. Well, today, Miss Kendra is not here. She's not feeling well. But we actually have our first guest today. So this is Miss Breanna Williams, attorney at law. So I wanted to bring on an expert, but I also wanted to explain that all the people that we're having on are, or the majority of them, I know personally. You're somebody that I've known for 8 years. I just realized that was 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So we have been friends for a long time. I trust you. I love you as a friend, and so I'm going to try not to cry. I cry every episode almost, but you were one of the first people I called.
Yes.
And I don't even remember what I said to you. I know it was late. When you got a friend that will answer your phone after midnight and answer it, and you said, "I'll be right there." And
That's how you said. You said, "Brandon, Mike's gone."
Yeah.
And I went, "What?"
And
I said, "Okay, I'm coming."
Okay.
I
And
need the address because you had a new house.
Yeah. I didn't even know I said that.
Yeah.
Because to Kendra, I said Mike's coding, and she was like, "What?" So, but anyway, we've been friends for a long time, and I trust you. And because I didn't have shit in place when Mike died, and again, you've been telling me, we just had this conversation, I want to say like a year ago, but we talk frequently. So, Amanda, you need to get a will. You need to do estate planning. Also, when my father passed away, you gave me some really good advice that was, you said, go ask your dad. Like, I think you gave me a list of like 10 questions and said, ask him these and video him. And this is something you'll have forever. And I was like, wow, it was such a great idea. When I went to do that with my dad, he did not want to do it, but I wish almost Mike and I had done that. So I want you to talk about that. But that was something that was so cool that I didn't even think about, but I wish I would have done. But I would like you to kind of tell us your background, tell us what you do. You can,
Okay.
anything.
So I have a law practice in Surfside Beach. Mm-hmm. The primary focus of my practice is family planning. Mm-hmm. And so as we say at Indigo, not only do we protect your family now, we protect you in the future, which is why estate planning is a part of it. And it really is important. And people think about estate planning when you get old.
Yeah.
Whatever old means. Of course we say, 70 is the new 50, but,
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
But you need to do it now. You need to do it for your children. You need to plan. You have to plan if you get a divorce. You have to plan if you don't get a divorce. You need to know what's going to happen to your children. You need to know what's going to happen to your things. And I would just go ahead and say, unfortunately, I am into widowhood now myself as well. And it has been an incredibly hard journey. And the difference, and so we won't get into it, but as a lawyer, my story is different than yours, okay? But with regard to estate planning, you need to do it. You need to have your will in place. But you also, like one of the things we do is we have documents for pre-death. Because you can get sick, you can be in a coma, you can be unable to express your needs, you can be unable to take care of things. When the electricity is in somebody else's name and they're in a coma, the electric company's not going to talk to you.
No, I know. I learned that.
Those things. It's crazy. And I will say this as part of it, like with my journey now, like, listen, my husband took care of, who do we have insurance on the house with? Okay, the car insurance I knew because I was getting that stuff in the mail. I had to wait on house insurance stuff to show up, and then he had just switched it. I had no idea who he switched it to. I mean, there are things that you really do need in place for your family if something happens to you.
Yeah. And you guys, like us, had that kind of a good, I would say, division of responsibilities. Where like car insurance, that was all Mike too. Like I know what it is only because he would be like, hey, I'm saving us money. And I'd be like, okay, whatever. But yeah, I didn't. I mean, just like the electric company, I had to call and transfer all those bills. And it was, And, we've kind of talked about this, just like that feeling of I'm drowning. I'm drowning, and there's really no one that can grab you out.
Nobody can do it for you, and nobody can help save you with it. And I think a thing that one of the best ways to be prepared is not only you need the will, right?
Yeah.
I mean, people worry, and I will say this so everybody knows. People think, well, if I don't have a will, the state's going to get my stuff. That's not how it works. Okay. There is if you can hear me.
Yep. That's
okay. There is a definite path that the state has a plan for if you don't have a will.
Yeah.
For instance, just so you'll know, if you're married with no children, the spouse gets 100%. Mm-hmm. If you're not married but have children, whether it's 1, 2, or 15, mm-hmm. they get the 100%. If you are married and have children, the spouse gets 50. The children, 1 to 15, get the other 50%.
They split that equally?
Yes, it's a 50-50 split. Now, if there's no spouse and no children, there's a lineage. You know, that people talk about, gosh, I inherited this from my long lost uncle I didn't know about. Well, that is the case. So it's very far out there. But I'm going to say this from a practical point of view, from somebody who's living it, from my friend who I care about who's living it. Not only do you need the documents themselves, but you need that other list.
Yeah, it's peace of mind.
Well, no, you need it. What I mean is you need the list of, put it down.
Yeah.
Here's who the house insurance is with. Here's who the car insurance with. Here's the account. Here's where I bank. I'm having to find banking accounts.
Yes.
I'm having to Amazon accounts.
Yeah.
I can't get into Amazon. What about the subscriptions? What about the Netflix? What about the Sirius FM?
So what we did in the first episode, or the second one we talked about, and I showed you guys, I have a binder now that is our household binder. So it has everything from safe codes to Netflix account to car insurance. It has so I keep it in the safe because it's got all that, but it's got all of our banking, who our electric company is, the account number, my storage unit, the account number. We did that because that's one thing I wanted to discuss. I didn't have that. So I'm like, oh, we have this storage unit? Oh, okay. And to budget. I got to plan a budget now because my husband was the primary breadwinner, and we talked, we didn't have life insurance, and, shame on me. But yeah, so that book that we talked about in the beginning, and I showed it, I think, twice, but I have a binder. And it's tabbed and listed because my OCD immediately wanted everything done.
You need to do it for your parents.
Yeah.
I mean, when my mom passed, I literally watched the mailbox.
Yeah.
To see what came in, to see what bills were out there, where she had loans, where she didn't have loans, things of that nature. And you don't know. And so yes, that is absolutely critical. But like I said, you not only do you need what I call the in-death documents, you really do need the in-life documents.
Binder, yeah.
You need the binder, but you need the in-life documents. You need a financial, durable power of attorney about financial. You need a health care power of attorney if you can't care for yourself. There are things that happen when people are familiar with the living will, right? Like that's the one that says, when 2 doctors have said I'm brain dead and the machines are keeping me alive, unplug me if that's what you want.
Yeah.
But there is, as you know, in being in the medical profession, the idea that God knows if there's still a spark somewhere and the body still survives, the medical profession has to sustain life.
Yeah.
And so you need to say, do you want to keep me alive as a vegetable, or do you just want to let me die? I mean, that's a morbid thing, but it's real, and when it happens, it's terrible.
And if you don't have that, then you dump that on a family member who is not prepared and doesn't know what you want. So that's why that is important. So will you explain the difference of like estate planning as all the components of that, like that binder, like all those documents? Like,
all right.
If you're 40 and you've got 2 kids like me, where do I even start?
So here's what you need to do. So understand there's very a difference in what composes your estate, okay? Your estate is every single thing you own. A will doesn't necessarily control what happens to every single thing you own. I.e. life insurance is a great example. Everybody knows that you may own the life insurance, but it has a designated beneficiary.
Correct.
So there are several things that you own that are part of your estate, but not controlled by a will. Life insurance, usually 401ks, bank accounts, stock accounts, those kinds of things. So you need to designate that, okay? Understand, you have minor children. I think, you need to decide anyone under 18 cannot own property, right? So no matter what, there has to be a trust created. And if you don't put it in your will, the state will create a trust because your kids under 18 can't own anything. But they'll get it when they turn 18. So what I tell folks who come in is there are a couple of decisions to make. One, if something happens to you, who would you like to raise your children? You need to think about level 1. You need to think about level 2 because God knows something might happen to the first level, okay? Then you also need to think about when those children get to be a certain age, when do you want them to inherit what you want them to inherit? Like for me, I don't want my children to get the bulk of whatever it is they're going to get till they're at least 25.
Yeah, we talked about that, yeah.
Okay. But so there are different layers. You have to decide for your children who do you want to raise them, and then I say when you create a trust, and this is my advice, take it for what it's worth. I think the people who are raising the children need some say so in who manages the money, but I don't think they need sole stuff, sole decision making.
Yeah.
Because I don't want somebody deciding, well, yeah, Breanna's children need to live in the Grand Dunes and drive a G-Wagon to school.
Yeah, no.
I mean, I just don't.
No. Yeah, no, I agree.
And not to be ugly, but I also don't think you need to be raising my children and you have to depend on somebody else to give you money. I mean, I want it there, but I want some safeguards. As a lawyer, that's one of the things we look at is we have to look at what's the worst case scenario, and I like for safeguards to be in place.
So safeguards are basically protecting so your children don't get $1 million at 18, correct? They're getting it. And if someone is raising your children, that they're going to be financially, they're going to not benefit from that, but
they'll be able to take care of the children.
Okay.
There's a certain amount, like they can use, the law specifies out, but if you set up, your will set up a trust, or you can, there are other kind of trusts that you can set up, but you set up so that my children, you can use the funds for these things for my children. Okay. And then at X age, they get X amount of the principal or this and that. And at this certain age, the trust dissolves and goes to them. But then, like I said, even if the person who's managing and who's dispensing the money, I mean, there's like no one I would trust to do it all by themselves.
I'm like literally thinking, right now, I put one person on there, I know, when we did it. Okay, so a couple comes in, they're in their 40s and they have children. Where do they start? Like, I didn't even know where to start. Luckily, I have you, and you were like, get in here, we need to do this, this, and this. I've done the life insurance and I think the will and the trust, but like you said, there's a lot more that you need to do. Just so you're not dumping this. Like I said, you're dumping this on the person. I know my husband, he was a really good man. I know he would never want me to be going through this, but I wouldn't have even known a year ago where to start. And I know you really well, and we're good friends, so.
Well, all right, so here's where I can kind of get a little bit, like the couple comes in, they've got the 2 children. So I start talking to them and explain, all right, we're going to do these, I call the life documents. Like I said, the living will, the healthcare power of attorney, the financial power of attorney. Okay. Then you look at the will, and do you want just a will or do you want a trust? And we go through the benefits of doing either or and why you do the different ones. But the bottom line is that the post-death documents control what's going to happen to your estate once you die. Okay, and you have decisions to make. Like I said, who's going to inherit what, and what age are they going to inherit? And if that person's not there, what happens to the portion they would get? You got brothers and sisters. You got 3 children. An older couple has 3 children. God forbid one of their children die before they do. What do they want that portion to go to the other 2? They're decisions you have to make. That's about the money. Then if you've got younger children, you need to decide who's going to raise the children. And those kinds of things, okay? Now, the other part that I was just going to tell you is I'm a little, I don't know what I would call it, but I'm, like I said, I'm a little proactive on these things. So I think I had an older brother die when I was 12, and he was 20, and we had to go in and pick out the suit he was buried in and his tie, and I can still see doing all that. And for the longest time, like my mom knew if I died in the winter, what to bury me in, if I died in the summer,
Yeah.
what to bury me in, because I didn't want to be cremated.
Right.
You know, I knew Jim wanted to be cremated. That was helpful.
Yeah. I knew the same, yeah.
I mean, you know, and not to be morbid, but you need to let the people know. And they say, well, I wanted my will. Well, honey, by the time anybody reads your will, it's a little late, and it doesn't matter. So those are the things you need to go ahead. I mean, it's a basic decision.
Yeah.
Who do you want to be? Do you want to be buried?
Yeah.
Do you want to be cremated? Where do you want to be buried? What would you like? Those kinds of things really do help
I agree.
people who are left.
Yeah, and that same thing after my dad died. Like he already had his plot. My mom already knew he already had kind of stuff set in motion, and I think that did make it easier on us kids and my mom. Do these laws vary state to state?
Yes.
Because we have a lot of out-of-state people in North
Yes.
Carolina, Ohio. Okay, so
Yes.
you need to check with your attorney in your state.
Yes.
Or
To see what the actual
Yes.
Well, but put it this way: what happens to things if you don't have a will?
correct.
And normally, like people will say, like for us, we don't have, like, wills have to be executed a certain way. Like if people say, well, he wrote it at home and he signed it. In South Carolina, that's not good enough.
I remember we had this discussion because I found one
Yeah.
that Mike had. Yeah.
It's not good enough.
Nope.
It's got to be signed, sealed, and documented a
Yep.
certain way.
Notarized and all
And
that, yeah.
different states have different rules about that, so you need to check. It's not that you have to see an attorney to sign the document and things in front of them, but if the documents are not executed correctly, then they're not valid.
Okay, that makes sense. At what stage in life? I mean, I'm still in my 40s.
Lucky you.
At what stage do you think you should start this? Just
Now.
But I mean, I understand now for me, but I'm saying
Now, everybody.
Everybody.
Listen, because
Thank
here's
you.
the reality. Here's the reality. It is more likely that I will get truly injured and damaged and hurt and killed by the time I drive out of this parking lot and drive back to my office or where I'm going today than make it to 95.
yeah.
I mean, we all expect to die when we're old,
Yes,
but that's not what happens.
Yeah, no. I mean, and we all expect to have plenty of time, and like Kendra and I have said, I mean, mine was like that. I know yours was, and Kendra said I had 40 days, and she always talks about, thought that John needed 40 days, and I realized I needed the 40 days. So I don't think you can ever start too young. I know I have a lot of people that we get a lot of questions. I'm 20-something. We don't have any kids. Put something in writing, because you're still dumping that on that 20-something-year-old who's not prepared. I mean, I don't care how old you are, you're not prepared. Even if you think you are, you're probably not. So,
Amanda, I lost my first brother when I was 12. He was 20. Then my dad died. Then my second brother died. Then a year later, my mother died. The only person who's left from my house at Christmas mornings, I said when I was a child, is my one sister.
Wow.
You're not prepared for any of those deaths at any age.
yeah.
And the more you can tell the people who are going to be here about what you want, even stuff like the songs.
Yeah.
What's your favorite song? What do you want it to do? Do you have a flower? Do you want colors? Do you want money, donated in your name?
What about if you have like a pet?
You can take care of a pet in your will, and you can tell people that, and that's a big deal.
I've had people ask me that. We've gotten that question.
Yes,
So,
you can designate funds to go for the care of the pet.
Okay, so do it before. Meet with somebody and do that. So now, on the other side of it, I come in, I have none of those documents done. My husband passed away suddenly. What advice? Where do I start as someone who lost their spouse and didn't have it? We just got a new house. You knew my vehicle was all of our vehicles were in Mike's name.
Well, the first thing you have to do is you really do need to go open up an estate. And let me explain this. Technically, and this is where I get a little legalese on you.
That's fine.
The ownership passes instantly upon death. So whatever happens when somebody dies to their property passes upon death. However, the heir or devisee, depending on whether you got a will or not, doesn't really get it till these probate process
which is what I had to do.
and stops.
Yes.
And basically it is a legal bridge, I like to explain it, so that the ownership and the pass-through ownership and everything is done is taken care of. And so that when it gets over here, everything's clean and clear and no doubt what's what.
Yes.
Okay. So the first thing you have to do is you really do need to go open an estate and get appointed as a personal representative. Usually the probate offices require a death certificate. If you cannot get a death certificate because of certain things going on, if you can prove it to them, you can show them the obituary, you can show them the flyer from the church services. You just have to prove that the person's dead, okay? And then they start what they need to do to open the process, and then you are the personal representative. Now, from there, one of the things you need to find is start hunting up everything you can hunt up. What are the accounts? What are the? Do you have titles? Who is the loans on them? What about, just everything? And then you kind of put it all in a pot, and then you got to figure out, depending on your particular circumstances, who are the potential heirs, and what are we going to do with it?
So that process, because I know for me, I mean, I'm at month 5 and I'm through that process with your help. But I just brought, I did do that, found out kind of every outstanding bill thing we had and put it on paper so I could see it. I got, like I said, our vehicles were in his name. His truck we turned back in. My car's paid off, which still was in his name. So we
got to start transferring
Yeah,
those things.
so
Those are the
that's-
things you got to find out about. And then, so for us, just for South Carolina residents to understand, we have basically an 8-month window. From the day you open the estate, they'll publicize, and then creditors have 8 months to file a claim.
Yeah.
At least for us in South Carolina. Other states vary.
Yeah.
Okay. But in that 8th month window, if somebody files a claim, then you address, is it a legitimate claim or not? At the end of 8 months, then you look at dispersing everything. So it's kind of a hurry up, get it all together, figure out what you got, you file an inventory, and then you basically sit and wait.
Okay.
At the end of the 8 months, there is a 4 or 5 different pieces of paper we have to file to close the estate. And they are, we let everybody know we're going to close it. We let everybody know our plan of distribution. And then we do any documents we need to finish up, notify everybody. And then we tell the court that's what we're going to do. And we wait on the court to approve it, close it, it's done.
Okay. So it's a process, but I just want to keep telling everybody, you got to go through it to get through it. You just got to take it one day at a time. It's just, I mean, I can't use a better word than drowning. I felt like I was calling, offices and places and bill companies and I know I have an account with y'all, but it's in my husband's name, and keep transferring stuff.
Listen, I just found a new account yesterday. And my husband has been passed now for June, July, August, over 3 months.
Yeah.
And I'm finding things.
I don't think I have found anything new yet from Mike, but there was a lot of I didn't even know about, the storage and other stuff. And he's got so much tools and stuff like that. So,
and that's the other thing. And I will say to guests, if you want to help, those kinds of things, like your tools. I would like for this to happen. I would like for that to happen.
Yeah. I
would like this. But you talk about just the actual being there and doing this. It is you and I are a lot alike. We got to get something done. You go do it. The train doesn't stop. Do what you got to do.
Put your shit to the side and keep shit moving.
You got 30 minutes to have your pity party. You got 2 days to have your little pity party. Get over it. Go do what you got to do. And I am literally drowning.
Yeah.
I still am drowning 3 months later.
Right.
I have a list. Every time I check one thing or 2 things off that list, I swear to God, 3 to 5 jump right back on it.
I said the same thing yesterday
crazy.
to Morgan. Like, I'm like, I will, like, I got all this done, but then I flip over the page and I've got 3 more pages. I'm like, and it just feels like you're drowning. So what about, for me, again, and I'm still going through it, like vehicles and things that are paid up. Do you transfer those in your name? Do you keep them in
You
there?
can, yeah, no, eventually, because we've got 2 or 3. Like my daughter's car is in my daughter's name and my husband's name.
Same with Morgan's. Yep.
Okay, so but there's a loan on it. So I'm gonna contact the bank and say, do you want? Because the problem will be, I'm the personal representative, so I'm gonna have to sign a title to get it in the estate in Jim, the estate in my daughter, or out, and I needed to ask the bank how they want me to do that. Okay, but I want you to understand. After the fact, if you forget something and you close the estate and you need to still move some titles or move some things like that, you certainly can go back to probate, reopen, because like the DMV won't let you do it. By God, they'll make you.
Girl, I've been to that DMV twice. They like see me coming in and everybody. I'm just it's a whole day process. The DMV.
Excuse me. The DMV won't let you just sign. So, but if just understand that if you miss something, you can go back and reopen an estate for specific purposes to clean up certain transfers and stuff. So
if you find
that.
stuff 6 months later, you can still go back. Okay.
Yes.
So we basically said now is the time to do this. What do you think the reason people don't do that? I mean, I know I'll tell you why we didn't do it. I just kept putting it off because I'm like, let's get to this stage in our life and then we'll do that. I was like, let's pay the cars off and then once we move, we'll do it.
My will documents are dated 2020. Mm-hmm. I've been practicing law for 30 plus years.
I was going to say, I know. Yeah. So why do people not do it? Do you think it's like because it's morbid, or is it expensive, or is it fear?
I think it's all of the above. I think people are scared it's going to cost a lot of money. And
it doesn't in comparison to what you're going to.
No.
Yeah.
But it's like people stop at a 7-Eleven or a Speedy Mart and they buy the $2 Coke, whereas we know if you go to Walmart you can buy the 6-pack for $3.50, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes it may seem a little expensive on the front end, but on the back end it's not. But I think people are busy. I don't think they want to spend the money. I don't think they want to think about it.
Yeah. I agree.
I don't think sometimes older couples don't want to cause the conflict between their children.
Yeah.
There's people just don't, and you need to.
So you made a good point. You said you did this in 2020, which was not very long ago.
No, and listen, girl, I got the paperwork.
So how often do you have to, so say you did do this 10 years ago. Do you need to update this as you go through life?
You just need to update if your wishes change.
Okay.
I tell people, even like people moving out of state and move here, I have people come in my office all the time, and they'll say, do I need to do this? Because people say, oh, you need to update your documents. And I will say this, is like I said, look, my children are expecting Santa Claus, okay?
Yeah.
But I'm not going to take your money. Our law in most states are, if the documents are valid in where they were created, we will recognize them as valid.
Okay, that's what I wondered too.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they're valid there, they're valid here for our purposes, as long as they still say what you want them to say, okay? The only caveat to that is like the execution of the documents. Florida executes documents different than we do. Florida requires one witness. We require 2 witnesses. Florida requires 1 witness and a notary. We require 2 witnesses and a notary. So lots of times people in South Carolina will look at a Florida document and go, well, that's not valid.
Yeah.
But it's valid there.
Okay.
So I explain to folks, if the execution in their home state is different, that sometimes it's worth it to redo it just so your people don't have to fight with somebody who's not.
So if your life situation changes, if you move states,
you can look at it.
You need to maybe.
Mm-hmm. If you move states, it's a maybe.
Yeah.
If your life situation changes and your wishes change, you need to do it, because whatever's in that paper is what's going to happen.
Right. That's good. Okay. So as far as like the will, the estate, all the legal process, the number one thing is to get it done.
Yes.
So the first thing that you think people need to do is at least do their will and their wishes and all of your, like I said, household info. That's something that you cannot do too early, correct?
Correct.
As you grow and as your situation changes, as you have kids, grandkids, move states, those are times when you need to update that. Where
Yes.
should you at all times have that paperwork with you? Like I carry I carry our will estate, all that now. I don't carry it, but it's in that binder.
I think it needs to be in a place where somebody can locate it.
Always.
Yes.
Okay.
Like yours is in your
Binder.
and the binder's put up. I think as long as it's put up and it's in the binder of where it should be, I think that's the matter. I mean, and I think the people closest to you will know, because if you go to the hospital, they're going to ask them, do they have a living will? Do they have this? Do they have the other? And if I had given you my healthcare power of attorney, I want you to have access to it if I'm in the hospital.
Okay. Does your attorney how long as an attorney do you keep that paperwork? Because if
That's a different question. I do not keep originals.
Okay.
I don't want to assume that responsibility and that
Yeah.
liability. I keep copies.
Okay.
And I have files, and lawyers are required to keep for South Carolina, we keep our files for 7 years.
Okay.
Okay. So my stuff is copied, and that's another point I will bring up too. If you have a will and the original's lost, it's not all is lost. There is a process, at least we have a process, where you can go to probate court and basically say, this is a valid copy of the misplaced will. Mm-hmm. Okay? So just because the original will gets lost doesn't mean you're back to what would happen without a will.
Okay. So essentially without a will, your spouse gets 50% of whatever you have. Did they assume 50% of your debt? What about the debt? Like I know Mike died with some credit card debt.
Here's the thing about debt. The debt is individual to the person.
Okay.
Okay. The only thing that's not, strange as it may be, and it's a really obscure little law in South Carolina, is a spouse can be responsible for like medical treatment. The law assumes that you would want to make your spouse healthy and happy,
Yes.
and so you could be. But I've never known the hospital or any of those people to go after the spouse for that debt. They usually go to the estate.
Okay.
But like individual credit cards in your name, vehicles in your name, they follow the individual.
So whoever had it.
Yes.
So when you get calls, because I've gotten calls on behalf, I got a call yesterday from Discover that Mike had a balance, and the lady kind of talked me through it. What should I have said? I said, we didn't have a will. I explained to her, and she said, well, I'm going to close this account because obviously he's no longer here. They asked for that's another thing, the death certificate. Like I said, I got 20 copies. I have 4 left. They all want those.
I think it is dependent upon the company that you deal with. I think when they call, you can let them know he's no longer here, and then depending on what they want, is what you'll provide them. And hopefully most of them will write it off.
Yes, and from my experience, that has happened. He had 2 credit cards that I didn't know about. Both of them asked for the one lady said just email it to me. I did have to mail it to the one place, but they both wrote them off and said I wouldn't be responsible.
Well, technically, you're not responsible anyway, but it's them not filing against the estate.
Yeah, I think they want me to see if I would pay.
Sure.
Yeah, of course. So in South Carolina, you are responsible for medical bills, or in every state?
I don't know.
Okay.
I know that is an obscure little rule, and it's got an odd little duck name, and it's one of those names like you learned in law school, like bajillion years ago. But I know that's there because it stuck with me because it's so weird.
Yeah.
But I've never known in any of the, I've been doing it for 30 plus years. I've never known them to come after the spouse.
Okay. Any other tips or little things that you think someone in their planning stage should know? And then looking at it from our point of view now as a widow, what should I expect? What do I need to know? We're still grieving. I'm still in that like, shit, man, I'm lonely, I'm bored. Mike did this. I'm still in that phase, so it's really hard for me to take that next step forward. But doing so, like, I want to be smart, and I don't want to dump this on my kids or anybody, even my friends. Like, if I wouldn't want to dump someone. This is shitty, a bad situation, and it puts a lot of things in perspective, and you see who your friends and your family and everybody, you see people much more clearly, but it also makes you really wise. I think really wise, and like, I didn't know any of this, but in the matter of the last 5 months, I put, like, at least from what I think, every step in place now.
Well, I think the binder's critical.
Yes.
Okay, I think that's critical. I would do want to say this for the people that listen about the Medicare type for people when you transfer property.
Yeah.
Just so you'll know, Medicare, and this is national, Medicare has a 5-year look back. Mm-hmm. So, meaning that if I have a house in my name and I think I'm going to have to go on Medicare and have them pay some bills for me, they can look back to 5 years of what I've owned. So if like parents, they'll come say, I think my mom and dad may eventually end up in a nursing home. What am I going to do with that?
Yes, we had that.
You can go ahead and transfer. Less than 3 years or less is a definite. More than likely. I'm in law, it's all great, but I'm going to tell you 3 years they're going to go back after it, okay?
Yeah.
5 years, it's a window. So if that's something that's coming on because mom or dad has been Alzheimer's, dementia, that kind of stuff, handle it now.
You're talking about, like, selling their property or transferring.
Or doing the title names or that kind of stuff. And just know about that. If you're going to do it, take care of that because you've got a definite 3-year, but a 5-year possibility to look back, okay? The other thing when I think it comes to planning and in the grieving aspect is the people who are left here, it's so different for everyone. And it's amazing. You really do find out who your friends are and who your friends aren't. My situation is so different than yours, but you just don't expect it. You don't expect the little things to trigger you.
No, I 100% agree because I was good doing the will. I was good writing all that. But this morning I heard a song that I heard 20 years ago in a bar in Akron, and it brought me to, I was sobbing. And I've been able to do all this and come to your office and go to and move transfer titles and do financial stuff, and because I think you're on autopilot, and I think I've had people like you.
Where it gets you is I have a friend and his is a divorce, but it's the same thing.
Yeah.
He was fine, and he's in Walmart, and he went to buy laundry detergent and lost it on the laundry detergent aisle because he's like, my God, this was my life for so long, and now it's not.
Yeah.
Divorce is very similar to this in that sense. It is a loss. It is a grieving, and you can't. You cannot anticipate what it does to you.
Yeah.
So you asked me about what we needed. The biggest thing I can say is you need to make some decisions before you call an attorney.
Yeah.
I would that online stuff is some of it's good, some of it's not. I would just say talk to a lawyer.
Yeah.
Really, really. There's a reason we all went to law school and we all learned that stuff.
Yeah, and you can go and do a consultation with an attorney and pay probably a consultation fee, and then they can guide you from there. It's not like this is something that's.
Yeah, you don't have to. And then the other thing I will say is pick a lawyer you like.
Yeah.
There's a dozen of us out there. Find somebody you like. Find somebody you trust.
Yeah.
But do it because the people left are left.
Yeah. And it's all thrown on their lap.
Yes.
So earlier I talked about the thing with my dad that you had given me like a list. Can you explain that? Because I think I love that, and I begged him, and he was like, "I'm fine. I'm not doing that." And I knew he wouldn't, but
so one of my ideas, and I've had to abandon it because I have several other projects, but I'm coming back to it. Is I had an uncle who actually landed on the beach in Normandy. Okay, and he told me that story, and I didn't stinking record it, and I should have.
Yeah.
I have an uncle who just passed. He was 99 years old. He came up on Pearl Harbor 3 days after it happened.
Wow.
Okay, they walked to school. They literally did. But there are things that, like now, I had children older. My children have never heard my dad's voice. They've never heard my mom's voice. They don't know their grandparents. That was my thing about the questions. I
Loved
wanted
it.
to know the things because what makes you you are
Yeah.
your stories. Mm-hmm. They're your stories.
Yeah.
It's not that you've got this degree and you own this job and you go to work here and you have this much in the bank and you have this kind of car. It's who you are. Where'd your name come from?
Yeah.
What's your favorite memory as a childhood? What was your favorite toy growing up? Those
Yeah.
kinds of things. That's what I was asking about.
I remember
doing
you
all
gave
that.
me a list and I loved it. It was such a. I even said what Mike and I, because I think we had to go back and forth a lot. We drove and we went through and asked each other those questions. And I will tell you my dad used to, we didn't have the best relationship. It was challenging. My family was, but in the last year, my dad would call me every Monday on the way to work. And I come in at 5:30. I had a 6 a.m. client. So at 5:30 in the morning, he would call. And I missed that. Like for the first year, it was like Monday, it was gut-wrenching because I missed that call. He would always tell me what scripture he was reading, tell me a story, and then pray with me. And my kids, my daughter, my youngest, she doesn't know what his voice is like. She doesn't remember that we called him the Tim Lap stories, or, she doesn't remember that. And I'm worried that Hudson, at being 8, that's her big fear, is that she said to me, I can't remember how Dad's voice is. So luckily we have, smartphones, which is helpful, but those are the things that I wish I would have done, because looking back, it's their voice.
Well, and here's the deal. It's not just, you don't just do it for you, you do it for them. And then what about your grandchildren? What about his grandchildren? What about,
Yeah.
that's the stuff that matters, I think.
Yeah.
It's your individuality.
Yeah, so I don't even know what you called that. I just remember you gave me, I don't even know if you emailed it or Candid gave it to me. It was a list of questions, and I don't know if you have that on your website. I don't know if you have any part of that, but that might be something that you sit in, like, with your spouse and write down questions. Yeah, I love that. Where'd your name come from? Favorite childhood
I
memory?
tried to do that as a lot with my estate planning, to come back in and
Yes.
say, look, I'll create a little video if you'll
Yes,
come
that's
in
what
and
you told me to
record
do.
it.
You said record it and send it to me, and I'll put it on something.
And put it on a video. And then the clients that don't want to do that. And I'm like, really? But
I would do anything to have something like that from my dad now, and from Mike. I would do anything, and I know it would mean so much to the kids. So I know it's like it is. People think it's morbid, or I don't want to plan for that, or I don't want to do that, but it's just important.
Well, my idea was about the videos, because people do it about the pictures, but pictures are flat.
Yes, and my house is full of pictures, and I look at that, like I said, I'm mourning a life that I see, because we are picture people. We talked about that, but those pictures are memories. That's not a cute picture of us on horseback. I remember that whole day. We're 95 degrees in July. We decided to go horseback riding. Horrible, so hot. It was miserable. We were dying, but in that picture, we all look like this is the best day of our lives. And the kids and I will look at that. We do a memory jar. We have a little jar. And we will, like last night, I'm like, let's everybody write a memory that we have with Dad. And then we put them in there, and we have once the jar gets full, we'll start pulling them out and remembering them, because I don't want them to forget. Like, the biggest thing is just not forgetting that you had a really good dad, or even if you didn't, even if you had struggles, but my dad and my grandpa, they had great stories. They both loved to tell me, and I don't have any of that, and I don't remember a lot of it because I was young. So I love that idea, and I think if you're a married couple, do those. You can sit and put your phone up and do a video. You can ask each other, but I think that was a great idea.
I do too.
I liked it. I remembered it, and I was like, I'm going to bring that up. All right, so key points for everybody. Can you give me top 3 things?
Go get your will done. Mm-hmm. Make that binder that you have described. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, because it's not just the will. There's a lot of other information.
It's the little stuff that like the electric bill. And Kendra said she got her water shut off the other day because she forgot. She just forgot it's in John's name. So you just forget.
That binder is absolutely critical. And then you need to talk to the people who are going to be here when something happens to you and give them an idea of what you would like for them to do. Because you want to honor the person who has just passed because you love them. And you're on autopilot and you cannot make those decisions.
Yeah.
So if somebody's already told you what they want, it makes it much easier for you.
Yeah.
Like, like the other bit, like when we had to say, okay, we got to plan a little reception. They've got friends that want to come in, And that's the other thing I will bring up. What you don't understand is the visitation thing is so difficult because you don't want to be there. You don't want to do it.
No.
But like Mike had so many friends, and they wanted to come honor him, and you need to. I felt like with Jim, I needed that to happen.
Yes.
You needed that to happen with
Mike.
him.
And that was a good thing. And I talked about that in the beginning too. That I remember you just said, "Here's a place. Do you like it? Here's the contract. Just sign it and send." It was like I had like you and my friend Sarah and Roberta. They just kind of did stuff, and it took that pressure off me. The only thing that I did, I knew Mike. We have always discussed we wanted to be cremated, so I knew that. But as far as I didn't even know what the hell to do. You literally walked me through. Even them being at our house, they came down and said you can go up and see him, and you kind of walked me through that. You're going to go up there. He's going to look, we didn't know how he was going to look. He looked fine. They took everything off of him, but you were like, then they're going to carry him out, and then you're going to have to you walked me through that. So I agree about having someone that you can trust and just to walk you through that, because I had no idea they were going to carry him out like that. I had no idea I would have to go identify the body. I had no idea when they were like, here's all of his jewelry, not all of it, his wedding ring, and he had a nice necklace, because you don't want to be cremated in that. So I didn't have any idea where to have a whatever you call it. We did a celebration of life, not a funeral. I didn't have any idea. And I don't even remember making those decisions. I remember you like, here, this place is good here. And someone saying, this catering company is good just here. So if you put that in place, and even those little details, I think that is critical, because then, like now, my kids can open this binder and go, Mom wants this, this, and this, and here's where she's going, and here's this, and it's everything. I mean, I put everything in there from, gym stuff, our storage, what tools, what things were meant something to me. Mike had bought me 2 wedding rings. I bought one in the beginning and I didn't like it, so he bought me another one. And like the girls have fought over which one, so I put, you get this one, you get this one. They're just brats like that, but they're not really. But well, the one is like the 90s, 80s style wedding ring, and the other one's just nicer. So, so I think putting all of that in something, because otherwise, like, it's the little details that really screw you up. Because I just didn't know. Like, I didn't even know.
You need to have Social Security number somewhere.
Yes.
You need to have make sure you got date of birth. You need to have your children's Social Security numbers in that spot. Mom used to keep all that stuff in the Bible, in the back of the Bible she had in the house.
That's a good idea.
But you need to have all that stuff in
That
one
is
place.
a good point. Yeah, I didn't. Mike had all of our birth certificates and our socials in an envelope that said, do not throw away. I have found them all in a filing cabinet in a plain old regular envelope that just said, don't throw away.
Oh, my God.
And I was like, what would make me not throw that away? Like, he just had just drawers full. Nothing was organized. So even like your tax information, you brought up one more thing that I wanted to bring up, Social Security. So if you have minor children, your children can get Social Security, correct?
Correct.
Do you know how that works? Can you explain anything of that?
You have to call Social Security and work through their system. They're their own little gods, and they do their own thing. As a surviving spouse, you are potentially entitled to something as a spouse. I'm still young. You're still young. We still have an income. There's nothing.
Yeah.
I'm not, okay? But my children are under 18, therefore they are entitled to some things. you need to call and check into that.
Yeah.
But you have to call Social Security because they have their own set of rules.
Right. I've done that. So you call, when you call Social Security, then you get an interview, which is usually 2 months away. They go through all your documents. Then you have to go back for like your final like assessment where they'll give you how much you're going to get and the date and what it's for and all this thing. So it's like I would say a 6 to 9 month process. So if that happens, that's another thing you need to jump on, especially if you need that financial
I would tell somebody
input.
This is the other thing with me, like health insurance. If your spouse gets
yes.
health insurance through work, sometimes you may be able to keep it going as a survivor spouse benefit. You need to find that immediately. Most of them will terminate if you don't notify them within 30 days and your head's reeling. You don't know to do that.
Yeah.
You need to check on that stuff.
I COBRA'd Mike's for a while, but that's what I'm in the process. That's another thing I have to do. It's like I have to find someone healthcare because our healthcare was under Mike's work, and they have been wonderful and they have been so helpful. But yeah, I won't have health insurance, and Hudson rarely gets sick, but I use it. I mean, I do go to the doctor and all that. So that's another really important thing. All right. Any closing words for widows, survivors of, this situation? Like, I know from just my standpoint of things that I would tell people, like that binder, you're right, is key. Like, that to me, if Mike would have had that, it would have made my life much easier, but.
I think practically the binder's a practical part.
Yeah.
From a personal, emotional part, I think you just got to have a friend, and I think you got to deal with it the way you need to deal with it. Mm-hmm. My big thing is I refused to let anybody tell me, oh, you don't need to go see this, or you don't need to do that, or you don't need to. Don't let anybody tell you how to feel. Mm-hmm. Don't let anybody tell you you should be over it. Don't, and don't be surprised. I hate to say this, but don't be surprised at
who isn't your friend.
The people who come out the woodwork at you.
Yep. Trust me, I know.
Astonished.
Yeah. And the balls people have to say things, or listen, I always say, if you're bringing something to me that isn't bringing any value to my life, you can keep it. I don't care who said it. I don't need to know who done it. I don't care what's being said behind my back because I don't care. It ain't my business. And your opinion of me and your opinion of Mike is not my business, so keep it to yourself. But that is something that no matter what, you're going to have to deal with. I've had that. That's not something.
You can't be prepared for that, but you need to know it.
And you need to prepare your kids for that because people will say things and do things. But again, I agree. In the beginning, I tell everybody, there's this huge influx and people are coming to your house every day. People you do not know coming over, dropping things off. Very nice. But by month 2 or 3, you're looking around, you're like, shit, I ain't got nobody. And so I literally said, I have like 3-4 friends that I can think of that I can call right now, and they'll be like, we're coming over. And that's really all you need. And I promise you that, because between the 4 of you guys, you, Missy, Kendra, and Sarah, everything got done. And I basically just showed up. And I was there, and I'm still doing that, you guys. I'm still just showing up, man. I'm not saying I have this figured out, but I'm hoping that this is really important information.
Well, I think it is critical, and I'm so glad you started this and doing it. And for anybody who hears it, if you just take away one little nugget, just do one little thing. Do one little thing.
Yeah. It'll
make it better. So
take those steps to do that, guys. That's today's episode. So, Breanna, thank you for coming. You know I love you. And we will see you guys next week, Wednesday at 10. Have a great day.